So there's an incredible new movie called Sight that is out May 24th, and it tells your story. What was it like, before we get into your story, what was it like to have your journey told on the big screen?
Thank you, Billy, for the opportunity. Great to see you again. It's a humbling experience for me, and it's an honor to see those world-class artists, director Andrew Hyatt, producer David Fisher, Darren Mormon, and the actor Greg Kinnear and Terry Chan. World-class artists who have developed their trade and ability over lifetime, the artistic ability to tell a story and put my story on the big silver screen. So it's a humbling experience. It's an honor.
Yeah, I mean, and your story obviously has for a long time captivated people. Let's just start with the fact that you were the inspiration actually for one of the characters in the original God's Not Dead series, which Martin,
Yeah.
who's been a character who has persisted through that series. What was it like, before we even get to Sight and obviously all of your accomplishments, to know that your story was so impactful that you inspired a character in such a massive movie?
It's also an honor tremendously, and the Dr. Rice Books, who wrote the book God's Not Dead, and which turned into the movie series God's Not Dead, and the Chinese student character in the movie is inspired by my life story as an atheist from China and to have found God in America. And actually, when they found the actor who will play me in the film God's Not Dead, Dr. Rice Books sent me a photo and said, "Hey, Ming, we got a guy, the Asian guy who's going to play you in the movie God's Not Dead." And I look at the picture and I text him back. I said, "Oh, at least he's better looking." So it was a fun experience. Actually, the actor who played me in God's Not Dead flew in to Nashville, and we actually had dinner together with Dr. Brooks and others. And so it's a really an honor, tremendous experience, and I think it's very powerful in relating the story as immigrant and atheist to so many folks out there, especially people from China. Most of us were atheists when we came. And to see how our experience and just the blessing to be able to find Christ here in America.
Yeah, I mean, your journey is incredible. You're a well-respected eye surgeon. You came to this country, as you said, as an atheist. You came here to study and you discovered faith. I want to get into that journey, but one of the things right now that a lot of people in America talk about is the supposed sort of massive Christian church that exists in China underground. Obviously, there are registered churches that have to be registered with the Chinese Communist Party to exist there. When you were living in China, I'd love to get into your story. Did you know any Christians? Had you ever come across a Christian before?
Yes, before I came to America, I was an atheist. I did meet some Christian friends. And from then until now, pretty much the same, that 80% of the churches in China are underground churches, are illegal, not registered, those house churches. And 20% are governmental churches where practically everything has to be approved by the government, including the sermons that are given out by pastors on Sundays. And so after I became a Christian, going back to China many times, and I joined many Chinese underground churches, those house churches, and those are often, all of them are illegal. I mean, you can apply for permission, all right, but it will take a long time to get granted. So 80% of the churches in China are underground, and here is the point here. Here in America, we can freely set a church. We can freely have opportunity to go and worship on Sundays. But because the freedom, the availability, opportunity to worship, to believe, some of the folks here in America have taken for granted. Oh, I don't want to go to church on Sundays, and but people in so much parts of the world today, including China, they do not have the freedom to worship. They do not have the freedom to go to churches on Sundays. And our church, several of them in China that are being associated over the years. When government often shut us down because we have not registered. So speak to the fact that when when we always have something, we do tend to take it for granted, such as the freedom to worship and believe in America.
Yeah, I mean, there are even reports that have come out over the past couple of years that the Chinese Communist Party is rewriting the Bible, essentially. And there are certain passages that we have seen that are very disturbing. They have Jesus stoning the woman caught in adultery. They have a number of other changes they've reportedly made to the official version of the Bible that's available. You have reports that people have to register in certain towns on apps before they go to the registered church they're attending. So there's a lot going on there. But going back to your story, your journey, when you lived in China before you came to America, what was your view of America and of Christianity?
Very interesting question, Billy. Good question. I talk about in my autobiography, From Darkness to Sight, which has been turned into a movie, Sight now. I had some exposure to Western literature, world culture, and the notion of God through these books I read as a kid. Even though during Cultural Revolution from 1966 to 76, when I grew up, that all of us were not allowed to read those Western books and only supposed to read, governmental books. So my father, as I talk about in the book, has to smuggle me in some of the books for me to read. And by reading those world literature, I got the notion about God, Christ, Christianity. But that's just some, limited exposure. My real exposure to Christian faith is after I've come to America, such as the character in the movie God's Not Dead, the Chinese student. And so before I came to America, I had only very limited exposure to faith.
Yeah, so you come to America, you're studying, and what was it that made you start to question this atheistic worldview that you had your entire life until you come to this country? What were the things that made the light switch start to go off for you on faith?
Great question. After I came to America, I finally got a chance to study science, and I was not interested in anything else, such as the character God's Not Dead, the Chinese student character. So I got my PhD in laser physics from University of Maryland and finished postdoc at MIT. Then I decided to want to be a laser eye surgeon, so I got my technical background, the PhD in laser physics. I decided to get my second doctorate degree, this time an MD from Harvard and MIT. And it was studying in the study of human eye at Harvard Medical School. I realized that my atheist worldview was in crisis. The human eye is so complicated, but yet it can form nearly perfectly, nearly every time. It's just impossible to form out of randomness, as atheists believe. So I kept on asking professor this question. He took me out for lunch one day, and he said, "What's across street?" I said, "There's a car." He said, "What's the difference between a car and a human eye?" I said, "Human eye is a lot more complicated." He said, "Okay, can you imagine a power random piece of metal form itself into a car?" I said, "No way." He said, "How about human eye?" So right there, he opened a door in my life, making me realize that the reason that human eye being so complicated but yet can form nearly perfectly most of the time is because it did not form out of randomness. It's formed with a purpose, and that purpose is vision. So there's a creator and designer behind it. And of course, going from that point, recognizing there's a creator, to eventually knowing that the creator has a name in Jesus Christ, that still took many more years. But it is in the study of science, interestingly, in the study of human eye, that I wanted to become an eye doctor, that I discovered evidence for existence of God.
How did becoming a Christian change you? When you think about your perspective, the way you lived before, in China, coming to America, how did you change as a person as a result of that faith?
I would say probably three major changes that I've seen in myself after having become Christian. Number one is purpose. Number two is eternity, sense of eternity. And number three is a journey. A purpose. I've been to school for forever. I told you that 2 doctorate degree, 1 PhD in laser physics, 1 MD from Harvard and MIT. So I was praying when I started practicing medicine. I said, God, I've been in school for 31 years. Now I finally finished. What should I do? What should I do for you? What's the real purpose of my life? And it's through my praying that God instilled in me that I should use my long, hard-studied medical skill to help those who need the most help, which are blind orphan children. So that's why I set up the foundation over 20 years ago and have devoted part of my life to help those folks, the blind orphan children from around the world. That's the subject of my book, From Darkness to Sight, and the subject of the movie, Sight. So purpose. Second is eternity. As a Christian, I realized that God died for our sin at the cross and rose from the dead 3 days later, proving that he can conquer death. And so we, as a Christian, we have a chance as well. Number 3 is a journey. Is that becoming a Christian is not just one day I declare to the world, oh, I'm a Christian. It's about lifelong commitment. That commitment is that God is the leader of my life. I need to consult him when I am in trouble or get stuck. And many years ago, I wanted to do research to help these children to come out of the darkness, to restore the eyesight by reduce the eye scarring, the corneal scar. And I realized that the only person who does not scar is an unborn child, the fetus. And how can we do research on fetus without hurting a baby? They say there's no common ground between science and faith. Fortunately, I remember that I'm Christian. I'm supposed to ask for God for help when I get stuck in my life. In this case, science and faith conflict. So I prayed and asked God if there's a science and faith is a common ground. I prayed so much that eventually got Dr. Wright's books, and I even wrote a book, Common Ground Bible Study. In one of my prayers many years ago, that an idea came that perhaps the reason that unborn child can heal without scar is because the amniotic membrane that's surrounding each unborn child. So I started getting donations for those placentas after mothers giving birth to children. The placenta is discarded anyway. So I get these placenta donated to me, bring them to the laboratory and start doing research. Eventually develop the amniotic membrane contact lens. When we put the amniotic fetal scarless contact lens onto injured eyes, we found indeed scars reduced, sight is restored. I got the first patent on the technology. Then I decided I'm going to just donate to the world. I end up donating it. I put it online and taught eye doctors from over 50 some countries how to use the technology. Today, amniotic membrane contact lens is $5 billion industry worldwide, and the tens of thousands of eye doctors in nearly every nation are using the technology, and millions of patients have their eyesight helped or restored. And that's the subject of the movie, Sight. Even though in the process, I myself did not make any money, but however, I felt that God wanted me to share the invention, the technology, and also I didn't really invent the amniotic membrane contact lens because I did not invent the placenta. I did not invent the amniotic membrane. As a scientist, I'm just privileged that God gave me an opportunity to get a glimpse of part of his original creation. So as a scientist, we need to recognize that our head cannot be too big. We invent this, develop that. It's God give us the opportunity to see some part of his original creation.
That's incredible. I mean, he owns the patent, right? He's the one who created all of this, and I love that you offered that gift to the world, that discovery, and what you just said there was so powerful. At the end of the day, with the film Sight, when people go to watch that movie, you've given us a number of clues of what they're going to see and experience in your journey. What do you want them to walk away thinking and feeling?
It's a film called Sight. So we need to know that there are two kinds of sight. There's a physical sight, and the film is about the remarkable journey of many of those blind orphan children, how they come from darkness to light, that our foundation has been able to help over the years. But also as a human being, not only we have the physical side, but just as, and perhaps more importantly, we have the spiritual side. That is to see what's God's purpose for all of us. Sight is a movie to help us to see beyond the challenges that we all face in life, see beyond our pain, see beyond our circumstance, see beyond our own self, so that we can help others who are in need, see beyond our own culture so that we can love each other despite our different ethnicity and nationalities, and see beyond our polarization in the unprecedented, divided, polarized nation, to recognize that we are so divided because human nature for power and control. And we need to recognize that we're so blessed living in a country with freedom and faith. And we need to appreciate America by being more willing to overcome our polarization, to love each other despite the differences, and to find that common ground. And so it may just take an immigrant, someone who used not have freedom, to remind America how precious freedom and faith are. It's like who appreciate sight the most are those who used to be blind. Who appreciate freedom the most are those who used to not have freedom. And Sight is a movie of someone who used to not have freedom.
Wow, that is a really powerful message. It comes at a time, just as we sort of round out to a close here, but I think it's important. You just mentioned it, a time where there is so much division, where there is so much confusion, and there seems to be a hyper focus. Not that we shouldn't confront the negative things in the past and fix them for the future, but there seems to be a real sentiment, almost sort of anti-American at moments, even within the country, in certain pockets of people, overly criticizing, only seeing the negative. When you look at coming from a place like China, and we've talked about the issues in this interview that are going on there are plenty of others we haven't even gotten into with Uyghur Muslims and other groups of people who lack rights. When you look at that, where you came from and where you are now, just reflect on that a little bit more, on that importance of understanding the freedom that we have so that we don't lose it.
Absolutely. I could not agree with you more, Billy, that often the pop culture today here in America is so fixated on the negative, fixated on our deficiency. Are we perfect? No. But are we living in the best country on this planet? Yes. Why? It's because, think about it, all these immigrants, myself included, many of them put their lives on the line so they can get to the other side. What's on the other side? The ability to live in America. If America is so horrible, why would people from all that fighting to come to live here? This is a great country. God has blessed us with freedom and faith. And we need to appreciate it. We need to first and foremost recognize that America is a beacon of hope for human race. It's because the two cornerstones of our great nation, America. One is the Constitution, freedom. One is the Bible, the faith. We cannot forget that. We need to recognize we are so blessed to live in a country with freedom. We should appreciate more. We should work together more. We should recognize that it doesn't matter you're Black, African American, Asian, Latino, white, whatever race, ethnicity, nationality. For us as Christians, we all have the ultimate common ground, which is Jesus Christ. Let's work together. Don't keep on complaining that the cup is half empty. Let's look at the cup as full to recognize what a blessing to live in America.
And what a powerful way to end this conversation. The film about your life story and your work is called Sight. It comes out May 24th in theaters across America. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Billy. Really appreciate it. Great to see you again.